Hello, this is the setup for our final project for ME3902. So our final project involved creating a mechanism that will automatically open or close a cabinet door based on whether or not an IR sensor sees an input, or if the door is open for more than 5 minutes, it will automatically close it. So some of the different elements of our setup included the IR sensor, which is configured to work with an NEC remote. If the up arrow is pressed, it will, and if the up arrow is pressed while the door is closed, it will begin to open the door. And if the down arrow is pressed while the door is open, it will begin to close the door. The next element is the ultrasonic sensor, which is used to detect whether or not the door is open. And the door is considered open if this distance is greater than 100 centimeters, and it is considered closed if this distance is less than 5 centimeters. So that is the second sensor for this. And then the last big element is the stepper motor, which is what is opening and closing the door. And this is connected using a 4-bar linkage, with 1 bar here, 1 bar here. And this connects to the cabinet, so as this moves, it will open and close the door. In this case, this stepper motor connects back to the motor driver, which is connected to the ADC. The motor is on pins 4 through 7. The ultrasonic is on pins 9 and 10, and the IR detector is on pin 2. Now, for experimental purposes, this setup is still connected to a computer. However, we are to supply ample power to this configuration without needing to connect it to a computer. It is connected to a Romy board from RB2000 and the RB2000 series, which is powered by 6 AA batteries, and these 2 wires are 5-volt and ground, which connect to VIN and ground on the Arduino board, which will supply power even when it is not connected. So for experimental purposes, while the system is running, the 2 values are printed to console: the current state that the state machine is in, and the value being read on the ultrasonic sensor. And so if we go back, right now, the system is in state 2, which is the open state. As you can see, the door is open. And there's 3 things that will trigger a change in state. One is if a person manually closes the door. The other is if the person manually closes the door, the system will change to the closed state, and nothing will happen until someone either opens the door again or presses the remote, the up button on the remote, to trigger the IR sensor. For the second thing that could change the state is if 5 minutes passed, and then the system recognizes, the door has been left open, and it triggers the motor to close the door. The last thing is if the down button is pressed, and at that point we can see that the motor attempts to close the door. Unfortunately, one problem we ran into that we were not able to solve is that this motor is not strong enough to close this door, and it has warped the 3D print, so it because of that. So the motor spins, but it is not able to close the door. However, you can hear based on the noise that if the door is manually closed, at this point, the motor stops. And if we check back down here, you can see that the system is now in state 0 and reading 2.1 centimeters, which means that it is closed. If we manually open the door, and then go and check the state again, we are back in state 2, which is open. If we close it again, we can see that we are back in state 0. And if we press the up arrow on the remote, the motor turns on. And once the door is opened far enough, in an ideal world, the motor would be doing this, but unfortunately that is not something we were able to accomplish. But once the door is opened far enough, the motor shuts off and the door is open, and you can reach in and grab what you need from the cabinet. The last thing that, the last change that can be triggered in this system is the 5 minutes. So in the meantime, I will explain the state machine and how it works in the code. The state machine has 4 states: open, opening, closed, and closing. And in these states, open and closed, nothing happens within them. But in opening and closing is when the stepper motor runs, and it's set to constantly step either -1 or 1 steps repetitively until the ultrasonic sensor detects that the distance is large enough. And so that is the 4 steps of the state machine. And the state machine was chosen because it is a very good structure for when you have different conditions that a system will be in and different events that will trigger a change from one system to another. Okay, so 5 minutes have passed, and as you can see, the motor is now attempting to close the door. And so this, after 5 minutes, the state changes from open to state 3, which is closing. And as you can see by the motor's attempt to close the door. And once this door is fully closed, it will stop running and return back to the closed state. Thank you very much.